Y'all, let's talk about how so many of us are very fragile because we hold on to too much stuff. We don't work through our stuff, right? So when we hold on to a bunch of stuff, and life is literally always happening, right? And if we hold on to our stuff, we probably been doing it for a minute, right? And because life is literally always happening, like every hour, every 30 minutes, something can happen. And if you are always holding on to your stuff, you're more than likely the type of person that reacts in a way like it's always something. Here goes something else. But the thing is, the only reason why you feel like here goes something else is because you haven't gotten rid of the stuff that you've been through. You're holding on to it, which leads you to be a very fragile being. Like, you're very fragile. You're fragile because you're tender. You are tender to the touch, right? Like, if your tire goes flat, you're kicking and screaming, you're cussing and fussing, or you isolating yourself, or you feel like you need to go get a drink because your tire just flattened. Those are not, like, that's not a healthy response to a tire flattening. Like, it's a tire that flattened. It's not like somebody came and stole your baby. It's not like you lost your job, right? And that's not to invalidate your feelings, but we're talking about the way that we respond when things happen. It's how we react to things, and then we're suppressing too. So if I react to this in a way like, let me go get a drink, let me go out, I need to go out because my tire is flattened, then I'm not really dealing with what happened. And the thing about it is, I'm not just dealing with this, I'm dealing with everything. So you're very fragile, you're tender to the touch, which leads to you not being a safe space for people. Because how can you be safe to somebody else when you're not safe to yourself? If that is the way you respond when stuff happens, you're not even safe for yourself. So let's think about a container. If we're constantly stuffing things in a container, that when we knock it over, the top is easily going to come off, right? It's going to pop. It's going to burst, right? Because we're suppressing, we're pushing, we're not dealing with, we're pushing stuff down. But if there are one or two things in it, or it's nothing in there, you knock that container over, the top's still going to be on there. We could just pick it back up. So people can't come and talk to you and have conversations because you are constantly reacting in a very impulsive way, reacting in a way like you're stuffed, like I just can't take it, I just had enough. Because everything that happens, you don't deal with it. And dealing with it is not cussing and fussing. That's not a healthy way to deal with it. Dealing with it is talking about it, right? It's dealing with your emotions, it's processing the situation, and it is finding a healthy resolve, because you gotta get it out of you. And that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. What has happened, right? We can't change history, but that's the thing about it. So history is gone. The only way we have access to what has happened is through our mind, when we remember our memories, right? We can take pictures, things like that. But what has happened is gone. It no longer exists. But some of us are still responding to something that happened in 1994, in 2021, that has people confused, because it's like, oh, that just happened? No, that happened when I was 3 years old. Oh, it's the way that you're talking about it. It's the energy that you're bringing that is like, wow, you are acting like this is something that literally just happened. And that's because you're not dealing with it, right? And if we're doing that with one thing, we're doing that with a lot of things, right? So we're not dealing with things when we need to, which leads us to being very fragile and tender. And I know, because I used to be that way. I was not a safe space. I was not somebody that people wanted to come and talk to and have a conversation if they need to find some resolve with me. And although I wasn't the type that's just going off as soon as somebody says something to me outwardly, in my mind, when you come to have a conversation with me, I'm already in my head. If you say, oh, I need to have what you need to have a conversation about? Like, I'm already in my head. I'm being defensive. I'm not really listening to what you're saying, right? I'm definitely not empathizing with you, because I'm barely letting you get any words out, right? I'm not being compassionate. I'm not being open. I'm being defensive. I'm projecting my stuff onto you because I had so much stuff already. So when you're coming to talk to me, I look at this like, here we go. It's another thing that we got to, only because I was holding on to so much. Now, let's say, like, life is always going to happen. And just because I've matured and I've worked through my stuff doesn't mean that I'm free and clear of life happening. Life is going to happen for all of us, and it's going to continue to happen. That's why you have to clear your stuff up. Because right now, you're like one of those Pillsbury little doughboy, and you're always ready to bust. That's not a safe space. So now that I have matured, and I'm always going to be mature, and we're always going to be working, life never ends, right? now that I've matured and I've learned how to manage my emotions, effectively communicate, be more open and empathetic, although that person may be saying something that I don't agree with, that doesn't mean they are not right. I still have to honor their feelings, right? Now that I've gotten to that place, I know when I'm looking at somebody who's fragile. So if I have to have a conversation with you, I know that I need to come at you in a very tender way, right? Because somehow you will make yourself believe, or you'll perceive me as coming at you and it's always something, and then you'll project that onto me. And that's why I say that's not being a safe space, because nobody wants to go in and talk to somebody that's always going off, or that's always turned up. That's not a safe space. You're not even being safe to yourself, because your nervous system is always worked up, right? You're not being safe to yourself. You're not being loving to yourself, right? You're not being compassionate to yourself. You're not being empathetic to yourself, because if you were being empathetic to yourself, then you will understand that this is not healthy for me to hold on to stuff. I understand why I hold on to stuff. When I started learning about effective communication and managing my emotions, I was like, wow, nowhere was this happening around me. Nowhere did they teach us this. This is the type of stuff that we need to be learning in school. Was not happening, right? And it was just like, wow, I really felt empathy for myself. I felt sad and like, you mean to tell me we really out here popping off, going off, cussing and fussing, arguing, fighting, when we could just be having conversations and just working on it, right? Just resolving stuff, not taking things personal. Just let's work through this. Let me understand how you feel. You understand how I feel. We're going to work this out, right? So when you hold on to stuff like that, you are very fragile. Let's talk about me. Somebody came and sideswiped my car the other day, broke my side mirror, took the paint off the side of my car. I didn't respond in oh my God, this don't make no sense. What is the point, right? I have to get it worked. I have to get it fixed. That's it. It's no point. Am I happy about it? No. I don't want to see my baby looking like that. Like, I don't want to see it. But at the end of the day, like, what can I really do about it, right? I'm not about to be kicking the side of my car. I'm not about to be banging the side of my car. Now, the old me would have been like, it's always something. Let me go smoke some weed. Let me go drink a drink. Let me go out, because that is a way for me to cope in an unhealthy way. And it's a way for me to distract from what it is that's always something, because there's always something going on. But that doesn't help, because after I get finished smoking, after that high goes down, guess what? I still got to get my car fixed. And after I get finished drinking and I'm not drunk anymore, guess what? I still got to get my car fixed. And the thing about it is, I mess around and drink and then do something else that don't make no sense. Call somebody up, do something because I'm drunk. It's not healthy. It's healthier for us to work through what we are going through. But it's going to be so overwhelming for you to work through it, because you literally don't work through anything. So if you feel like it's always something, when it's time for you to work through it, you're going to feel like it's just so much. It's so much. So you just have to be patient with yourself. You just have to really give yourself empathy and know that the reason why you operate the way you operate is because that's all you know. That's all you know. But that doesn't mean you can't grow. That doesn't mean that you can't learn new ways to cope, new healthy ways to cope. Like now, when it's time for me when I need to cope, I do a lot of deep breathing. Deep breathing really helps me. It really helps me to anchor myself to my body and get out of my mind, because that's another thing. We stay in our minds when we have yet to resolve. That's why you could have issues with your mom, and your mom being in and out or whatever in your life, or your mom not being there, not being loving, and you could be talking to a friend, right? And you are in your mind thinking about something about your mother, and you're perceiving that your friend is doing the same thing that your mother's doing. That's not what's going on. The thing is that you're in your mind because you have yet to resolve that. You have yet to work through it, let go, and forgive. That is peace, y'all. I'm telling you. Letting go brings so much peace. And when I say letting go, I don't mean letting go like it never happened. Like I said, what happened has happened, but we stay hooked onto the negative emotions that we have about it. And that's what keeps us there, right? And the picture of what we believe it should have been. My mother should have been the person that hugged me. She should have been the person that loved me. Now I'm so closed off because she didn't do that. And it's like you stay there, and you feel like you're making your mother pay, right? And then you start to have behaviors that align with what it is that you feel. So you start to move away from your mother. You start to look at your mother in a negative light. And then you literally start to recreate situations in your life, right, that will align with what it is that you haven't let go. So not only are we holding on to stuff, but then we are recreating scenarios based off of the things that we have yet to let go of. And if I haven't let go of 150 or 2,000 things, right, then Guess how many scenarios that I've now placed myself in that I also have to work through too. Right? Because it's like a tree. It's like, this is a stem. My mother wasn't there. Okay, well, let me go ahead and get with somebody who's not there and they're not there either. Let me try to overlove my child or overgive my child. Not overlove my child, but let me spoil my child and try to give my child everything they want, because I feel like that's going to help us to have a better relationship. And then you end up going to the opposite end of the spectrum, trying to make sure that you and your child have the relationship that you and your mother didn't have, and it ends up impacting the relationship in a negative way, although you wouldn't believe that it would, because it's like, but if I'm giving my child everything and I felt like my mother didn't give me those things, wouldn't that work? Well, no, because the thing is, you're doing it from a place of pain. You're not actually doing it from a healthy place. You're doing it from a place where I just need what I didn't get, and I just want to make sure. It's like a place of survival. It's like a place of lack, right? Because I feel like I didn't get, I need to cling tightly and do what I need to do. So I make sure that I'm not creating the same scenario that I was in, but you end up actually creating a scenario that is the same or that aligns with it, because you're always going to get in life what it is that you have to give. So you have to work on your stuff when it happens, right? You don't have to yell it to the world that, oh my God, my tire just burst and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work on this stuff. You can do it on your own, right? You can really do it on your own. When you go to get really upset and say, you know what, I'm just so sick, my tire I need to go get a drink. That's why you have to be self-aware. You really have to be self-aware, because in that moment, I don't need a drink, right? Why do I feel like I need a drink? What is it? Ask yourself, what is it that's pushing me to get a drink? Well, I feel like it's always something. What is always something? What is it? What is the always something? It's not just this tire, right? It's not just A. A is the tire, because that's not a reason for us to, oh my God, I'm going to get a drink. There's other things that are coming along with that. And that is what's making you believe that it's so heavy right now. And it's so heavy because you're so heavy. You are burdened with everything that you refuse to let go of. You have to work on letting go. You're not harming anybody by holding on to stuff. You're harming yourself for real, because what we are going through, when we go through stuff, we're affected in our mind, our body, and our spirit, right? So your spirit is heavy as I don't know what. Your body is being affected, because we do know that having those negative responses to life, those negative reactions, always being turned up, not forgiving, that type of stuff leads to diabetes, high blood pressure. Like that type of stuff affects that as well, right? So you're not hurting anybody else. And if you are hurting people, you're also going to start losing people, because the only people that are going to sit around and deal with that are people that are in the same, they are aligned with you. That is people that haven't learned that they need to work on that stuff. That is people who haven't gotten to a place where they love themselves, where I'm not going to deal with this from anybody. I don't care who it is. It can be my mother. If my mother is showing up in an unhealthy way, I just have to disconnect myself from her. That does not mean that I don't love her, because I do love her. However, she has some behaviors that are just not for her good. And because she has behaviors that are not for her good, she's giving that out, because we give what we have to give. And now these behaviors are not for my good. I love myself. This is not personal, right? I'm doing what's best for me, and I'm going to let go. So you're sabotaging relationships, right? And you're hurting yourself. So it's best that we just work through. So the next time that you go through something and you feel yourself saying, let me go get a drink, let me go do this, let me go do that. Like I said, I would have went and got a drink. I would have went and smoked some weed, but I still would have had to deal with my car. So why not just deal with it, right? I got to deal with it. It's not the end of the world. My car still drives. If they would have messed the car that much, I will report it to my insurance company. And guess what I will be doing? I will be getting a new car, because there's not a shortage on cars out here. That ain't the first car that I would have had to gotten totaled, not being my fault. And any time that my car has gotten messed up, I get a new one, right? So I don't need to come from a place like it's always, there's more tires, there's more cars, y'all, and it's more things that's going to happen to you in life, because that's what happens. Life is always giving us what it is that we need, right? So until you learn how to deal with your stuff, you always going to come up against stuff where it's going to make you feel like it's always something, and it's always something, it's always something that's going to align with the always something that you do not deal with, because it's going to continue to give you always something until you say, you know what, I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of always feeling like it's always something. I'm sick and tired of always just turning up every time something happened. I'm sick and tired of running from my stuff instead of sitting with it. I'm sick and tired of distracting in unhealthy ways where I wouldn't be drinking all this alcohol if I would work through my stuff. We know alcohol is toxic as hell. We know alcohol is toxic as hell. We know smoking is not good for you, right? So I wouldn't be sitting up here and doing all this stuff. I wouldn't be going to eating food. That was something else that I would do. Whenever I'm stressed, go eat some food. Steadily gaining weight. We know that eating a whole bunch of unhealthy foods is not healthy for you, but if I didn't have these unhealthy behaviors these unhealthy thoughts and feelings that I'm not processing, right, then I wouldn't be responding in an unhealthy way because we give what we have within, right? So now I am going to do something that's unhealthy because I'm in an unhealthy place, which actually is only hurting me even more because I would not be drinking all this alcohol if I knew how to work through my stuff and I actually work through things when they happen. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about the importance of us working through our stuff, why it is that we are super fragile. Like, we are some super fragile people, honey. When we are holding on to a whole bunch of stuff, you're fragile. Like, at any minute you can blow. And the thing about it is you lack control of yourself, right? So now if I wanted to come in and poke you, I know how to get to you because you're going to go. I know you're going to go. I see the way you respond to stuff, right? I see the way you react to things that happen. I see how you react to the smallest thing that happens, right? You're super fragile and you're controlled by your emotions. You don't allow your emotions to control you. You have to learn to manage your emotions. But the only way you're going to do that is if you take notice of how you are feeling, how you are responding, and find better ways. Like I said, manage your emotions like I did with the car. I could have went off, but for what, right? I don't need to. And you can be angry. It's nothing wrong with you being angry, but it's about the way that we respond to that, the way we react. Like I said, I could be angry that my tire got flat that went flat on the highway. But when I get out the car and I start kicking and screaming, kicking the tire, we don't do that. That's what's not healthy, because I mess around and hurt myself, right? And then it's just a constant cycle. And that's how it is when you're just in a negative place within. It just seems like it's always tying to this happening. Like, oh my God, now I done broke my toe. Now it's just always something. It's just, oh my God, now they saying I'm not gonna be able to take the time off from work and I'm not gonna get paid. It's just always something. It's just always something, because it's just always something in you that you're not working through. So let's work through so we will be less fragile and we will be able to weather what it is that life brings us our way, because life is bringing things our way. And if we change our perception from it's just always something and I'm just a victim to, dealing with our emotions, being honest about how we feel. But then what is it that I can learn from this situation? What did I learn from my situation? I'm not parking my car where it was no more. I'm going to take it across the street. I don't have time. Y'all won't hit me again, right? That's what I learned from that situation. So, all right, y'all, manage your emotions. No more fragile, being stuffed into little Pillsbury. Woohoo! So, when something happens, you ready to burst.